All right. This is going to be fun. So, without further ado, Luka Nation, this week's guest episode is one that I think you're going to listen to a few times because this is a hobby insider, someone that from a few minutes that we've talked kind of backstage is pleasant, is good vibes, and is the CEO and co-founder of a business you guys all probably have heard of and want to know more about. So I think today is going to be a really awesome episode. I'm looking forward to kind of as a student to learn more, to kind of be a fly on the wall. But without further ado, guys, I have Tim Getsch. He is COMC. He's the founder and CEO of COMC, and we all know the brand. And today I want to learn a little bit more behind the brand. Mm-hmm. So if we could go, and we'll start here, and we're going to go about a variety of different places. COMC, you guys just got a new facility. There's been tons of growth. You're going to see them at National. But I want to hear the origin story, okay. I love origin stories in the hobby. How did you get into collecting, and how did that navigate you into starting COMC?
Oh, that's a great question. I started collecting in elementary school. This was in the 80s. And I remember the thing that got me hooked was seeing an early price guide that said this Lenny Dykstra card, this 86 Topps Lenny Dykstra was worth $2. This wasn't even a Beckett. This was like some other price guide. But that blew my mind that this thing, because I'm a little kid, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have something of value. And I've always loved numbers. And soon after that, I started meticulously following. I still have these charts that I created of month after month, Robin Yount and George Brett rookie cards, how they were trending. I hated reading, but I subscribed to Beckett and went through right to the middle every time, read through all the numbers, looked at all the arrows, and tried to understand the market. That said, I was not successful at making money off trading cards as a grade schooler, junior high schooler, but I was very fascinated, and I would keep records of how much I was spending on cards. I was trying to prove to my dad that it was actually a good investment. My parents actually at one point forbid me from collecting because they thought it was just a waste of time. Now they get a huge kick out of the fact that now I'm making my living off trading cards as well as hundreds of employees. So it's kind of a fun full circle. But I was always trying to crack that. Yeah.
Quick question. So I know you're a numbers guy. Do you remember the most expensive card? Let's say back then. What was the most expensive card at that time?
Well, for sure, the Honus Wagner T206. That was the holy grail back then. Early on, I remember when it was still only like a $30,000 card. It wasn't. It's gone a long ways since the early 80s. Yeah.
You know what? The only fun part I have on that, I'm going to add just because I'm an old man. About 90% of our audience missed the fun part about that, the nostalgia, which is he opened up a Beckett and went right to the middle.
Yeah.
So I guarantee people are like, well, what does that even mean, right? So and I know exactly what you're talking about because Beckett was a sports magazine and it had sports card prices and it had articles and it had stuff, hey, this is the cool card, these are the new releases, and if you opened it up, there was a table of contents, but in the middle of it was a price guide. That was how we got our comps. That was how we got our valuations. If you were opening packs, that 86 Topps you talk about with Lenny Dykstra with the black top, it was like, oh wow, it's $2. You went in there, and what he's talking about the arrows is month to month how you would see what cards were going up and going down was one. They had like a top 10 for each sport. It would show you like what was going up and what was going down. But the prices month to month would have an up or a down arrow, just like a black. It's all like black and white. Arrow up, and you're like, oh wow, look at my card is up. My card is up because you had no idea whether it was going up or there was no eBay, no COMC, no nothing. Right?
No, there was no internet back then.
It was crazy. You every month you'd get it. By the time you got it, the price was probably out of date already. But who knew? Griffey had already hit 20 home runs, but he had a down arrow because when they printed it the month before, he was in a slump. It's just it's amazing how far we've come with the data and just the instant. It's all at our fingertips now. It's so different.
Mm-hmm. So Tim, you're in high school, and we had this question today on the show. So you're not making money in sports cards. And you're like, instead of investing in sports cards, let me create a business that creates a marketplace for sports cards.
Well,
did I get it right?
That was years later. So I basically spent every penny I could. And remember, my parents forbid me from collecting. So my workaround for this is I mowed the yard of the lady who owned the local card shop, and she paid me in cards. So I didn't have to spend money on cards. So that was my way of investing in trading cards. But once I got to college, my attention was on that. I had to kind of set trading cards aside. And I got my master's in computer science, came out to Seattle to work at Microsoft. I was heads down for a few years on my first product cycle at Microsoft. And then generally between our product cycles, we would have a little bit of time off. And so I decided to go see what was going on with my childhood hobby. This was 2003. And I knew eBay was big. Like when I was still in high school, that was when Kobe was a rookie and eBay was just getting started. And so I was like buying Kobe rookies at the local card shop and then selling them to people in California, right? So that was just getting started. I knew eBay was going to do something.
Do you remember how you got paid? Do you remember how you got paid back then?
Oh, yeah. By a check or actual money. Like people had to put the dollars in because we didn't have PayPal back then. Yeah.
I tell you, like post a money order was like gold. Like, whoa, it's such a money order. I don't have to wait for this check to clear. You know, it's like gold. People don't realize.
Cage got a ton of them, and in that little 4 section, they wrote fuzzy Beanie Babies.
I was selling Beanie Babies. I put myself through law school on Beanie Babies. Forget about it.
Yeah, so I was I knew that the eBay was going to be big, and by the time I got back to the hobby in 2003, all the card shops and card shows were gone. Like 90% of card shows and card shops had disappeared. It had all moved on eBay, and I looked at like stuff. I remember trying to put together like a 93 Leaf set, and I had spent hundreds of dollars on packs or boxes trying to build a set. And then I went on eBay and I could buy the complete set for like $15. And at first, like literally, it was probably like for a couple minutes, I was really sad. And then I'm like, wait a sec, I have a Microsoft salary and everything is dirt cheap. So then I just bought like every set I could find. And I just like tried to figure out how to efficiently buy things on eBay. And I realized that the best way to get things on eBay was to find a big seller, because they usually would offer like a cap on shipping. And I actually found this guy I think it was the Chicago area, that he hired someone to list a ton of eBay auctions. And I would bid on every auction he listed. He would do like 200 lots a week, and I would win half of them. In order for me to like, he did a horrible job of listing. Like we didn't have any photos, and he would just say, it's from this set. These are the card numbers. So you didn't even, unless you had a Beckett to go look up the card numbers, you didn't even know what was in the auction. So I actually wrote code to analyze all of his auctions and actually figure out what the Beckett value was of those auctions. And then I would bid like a certain percentage of the Beckett value. And because of that, I ended up winning a ton of auctions that just slipped through the cracks. One of his employee that would do all the listing went off to start his own card shop or something. So he didn't have anybody to list his auctions, but he's like, you're winning half of them. I lost my employee. How about I just send you a box of cards? Clearly you have some tech that makes it easy for you to bid on this stuff. I'm just going to send you what I would have listed and just tell me what you would have paid for it. And so for like another year, he would just like send me packages and I would process all the cards and then just send him a payment for those cards. So that was the original cards that I acquired for a website that I called lowpricecards.com, where I wanted to take the technology that I learned from Microsoft and my childhood hobby and try to just create something self-sustaining. I wanted to buy these things on eBay or elsewhere, put them up for sale, and then let people buy them and just keep reinvesting the money. But I very quickly realized that it's a lot of work to ship and keep track of your inventory list cards, to get good images. And back in 2003, 4, 5, it was eBay, or like maybe your nephew or cousin was going to school and might write some code for you, but no company was building any professional software for trading cards. So I had been speaking at a conference, and so I was working at Microsoft, and I was working on the Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Access products, and I would go present on some of the features we were doing there, and I could sit in on all the other sessions. So I learned about what Microsoft was doing with web technologies and with SQL Server. And as soon as they released their updates, I took a week off of work and I took their sample and I just customized that to be kind of what I envisioned as an ideal place to buy and sell trading cards. And so that was the first version, the lowpricecards.com website. We were back then, man, websites were so painful. If you wanted to put things in your shopping cart, it was like 20 clicks to get it into your cart. And it was just a nightmare. So using the latest technology, you could do all these. Now it's like every website does it, but like you could click and it didn't actually refresh the whole page. And just I wanted to apply technology to trading cards. And some of the first reactions I got from people on the website was, "This is amazing. How do I get my cards on a site like this? Like, what was the software package that you purchased?" Because nobody like built sites like this. So they thought someone had custom built this and was selling it. And I'm like, actually, you kind of need a degree in computer science and a whole lot of time to build this. So how about instead just send me your cards and I'll put them on the site, and then you don't have to do the fulfillment yourself. Like, we'll just house them here. And then just like my favorite eBay sellers that offered combined shipping, we can all get combined shipping. So everybody can then list their stuff on this one platform. People can buy, because we're housing the cards, you don't even have to have them shipped. You can do flipping, which obviously that's what I was trying to do. I was buying stuff off eBay and then trying to sell it on my own website. Like, why not just have people buy and sell on the same platform and instantly be able to relist? So by the time we launched Check Out My Cards in 2007 at the National, flipping was one of our first features. Like, I remember demoing in Cleveland in 2007, you could go to a page, you find a card that you think is undervalued, and in one click, you can purchase the card and then put it right back up for sale at whatever price you want it, and not have to wait for it to be shipped and wait for like feedback and whatever else you had to do with other platforms. So that was kind of the birth of COMC and some of the like milestones or the things that kind of led up to the current incarnation of our business model.
I'm going to give Cage the floor here in a second, because I saw, we've never met, but as soon as you said that you got back into the hobby at 2003, he smiled, because Cage has this theory, that if you share a draft year with LeBron James, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, you're going to be a success in business. But first, I want to hear, so you launched COMC at National? So like literally this time of the year at National?
Yeah, we beta tested the website with a couple local collectors, and it was in 2007 at the National that we told the world, hey, you can use our service. You can drop stuff off, you can mail stuff to us, you can create an account, and we're open for business. Yeah.
I love it. Before I go, we have one friend, one guy in the Instagram group that Andrew and I met, who we call like the king of COMC, right? And it's exactly what you're talking about, right? And you've been doing it forever, guys. His name is DJ. I'll read his questions for you. I messaged him. I said, hey, we're talking to the CEO. You know COMC better than anyone I know. You have any questions for him? And he just messaged back. So I'll make sure I ask that before I go. But here's some fun ones, right? You were ahead of your time for a lot of things. But the one I have to give you credit for is Check Out My Cards in 2007. Because if there's one thing I think is spurring this hobby, yeah, sure, Gary Vee, he's doing his thing. Yeah, sure, there's big money coming in. But the social media influence, the Instagram, which was not there, right? The fact that people are basically showing off their cards and flexing to people, right? And saying, hey, look what I got. Hey, look at this account. Hey, look at this. And everybody's playing a catch-up game. Everybody's playing, a keep up with the Joneses game. Like, he's got that Jordan. I'm going to go get a Jordan. Hey, I like that card. What you had was a platform for buying and selling cards. Where did check out my cards come from? Because that is, I mean, it really is. It's what I would name something today. It's not what I would think of naming it back in 2007.
It's funny you say that. The reason I called it Check Out My Cards is actually because I know nothing about sales and marketing. I'm all about tech, and I wanted to focus all of my energy on building a quality service, and I wanted to leave it to our sellers. If they liked our service, they could go tell their friends, check out my cards. And if we didn't do a good job, then they wouldn't tell people. But our whole point was, if we did a good job, people would tell. We wanted it to grow organically. We wanted it to be a name that people could reference and just they could own. It's their cards that are up for sale. So we wanted all of our sellers to be our marketing team. And we wanted to put the pressure on ourselves to provide a good quality service rather than us having slick salespeople. Like we had to give people good service in order to grow the business.
So here's my follow-up to that. And I'd love to hear how, I don't know if it was always like this or how you came to this, but everybody else out there is trying to be the new and improved, the better version of something that's out there, right? You created something that was just didn't exist, right? And you could say maybe you were trying to do something to compete with eBay or and I asked that way for a reason, because everybody out now, who's coming out with stuff in the last 2 years is, well, eBay's got some flaws, so we're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
If people don't realize this, COMC works with eBay, right? Works through eBay. The sellers sell through eBay. So most of the time when I'm buying something from COMC, I'm buying it directly off of eBay.
Sure.
And it's slick because I'll find something I like. It'll say COMC, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to go find 10 other things now because I'm paying the same shipping price. So let me go see what else I can find. Let me see the other COMC listings that are worth sending it to me now, because I might as well just put them all in my cart at once. So that's pretty damn smart, right? Because you could have said, fork in the road, we're going to do everything we can to do it on our own. But you said, you know what? This is a juggernaut, this eBay, we're going to work with. How did that come to pass? Because that's not what a lot of people would do if they were building something now.
Yeah, so a lot of companies either said, hey, we see flaws in eBay, we're going to do our own version of eBay. And there's a lot of companies that came and went trying to do that. And I intentionally decided I was going to do something different. I didn't want to just reinvent eBay with different fees and different return policies. Like, that's not what's going to get people to use the service. So obviously consignment is completely different from eBay. And then what we basically were seeing is as we started building out our services, actually, I'm sorry, I lost the train of thought. What was the original question?
About eBay, how you decided that you weren't going to compete with them, but you were
competing against eBay. So for the first 10 years, we actually didn't have eBay support. We listed on our own platform, and then we met eBay at a Hawaii trade conference and started chatting with eBay, and then said, hey, we got this huge inventory, and they were interested in expanding the trading card selection. And so then we added support to synchronize with eBay. At first we didn't even have the eBay integration. We actually used to do Amazon integration, and then later retired the Amazon integration and just focused on eBay, because that's where the trading card market has been. And so we just wanted to make it easy for our collectors to get their cards to the most eyeballs and just make it as simple as possible. And so, yeah, we get a huge volume of collectors that do exactly what you did. Our average order on eBay, I think, is around that 10 card range. Like, people go do that. They see one card, and because we got a huge selection, they'll go find a bunch of other cards. And we haven't really tried to like push people out of the hobby or try to replace. We're just trying to make the hobby better. And definitely eBay is where people have been at this point. We're the second most popular marketplace behind eBay. And as long as companies are making the hobby better, I love it. I love all the different players that are coming and trying to do things differently. But yeah, we definitely didn't want to reinvent the wheel and just make a subtle tweak. We wanted to do something really different. And so that's why eBay appreciates working with us, because they see us. I mean, we are the largest consignor on their platform. In fact, there's the only sellers on their platform that are larger than us tend to be people that buy used books or DVDs and like resell stuff like that. And there's only a handful, maybe 10 companies that do more transactions on eBay than we do.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
Cage, we'll get into the questions here in a second, so you can pull them up. But for me, something that stuck out. I don't know if people agree with this or not, but I'll say it. Like, I came here. We're immigrants, okay? So the American dream that we were promised is like, you come here as an immigrant, you work hard, and you open your business and you live your life. I think there's another American dream that like people don't talk about, or it's not as publicly known. And I think you are kind of like living proof of that. Of you could still do your childhood passions even after going through corporate America. So here you are, a kid who loved to trade cards, play with cards. You're a numbers guy. You went to Microsoft and you use that as a way to learn the other parts of the craft. And then you go ahead, and Gary Vee talks about this, the 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., the 7 p.m. to 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. of like, I'm still working for Microsoft and I'm building COMC on the side. I'm curious, when was the decision that you made where it was like, all right, I got to go all in now?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, for sure. I started building COMC, I should say the predecessor to COMC, like I said, the hobby business back in 2003, 2004. It wasn't until 2007 that we launched the Check Out My Cards service. I was still at Microsoft. I left Microsoft about 3 months later, but immediately started doing contract work at Microsoft because I wasn't ready to pay myself a salary. So that was my way of like going down to part-time. As I became a contractor, I placed my business literally across the street from the Microsoft campus so that I could easily go back and forth. And it was about 2 years later that the company was able to pay my salary, and I was able to focus all my attention on COMC. And that was right around the time we had our millionth card consigned to COMC. And I realized at this point, I can't just shut the business down if things go sideways. Like I have to make this succeed. So I put all my energies in it.
Let's if we want to add this awesome story. It's pretty incredible.
And that didn't take that long.
Yeah.
And that's in 2010, Cage.
Right, so you want me to ask
2009.
Go ahead.
I do. I want to get into because DJ, we laughed at it in some of our groups. Like he was like, I'm telling you guys, Mikal Bridges, I got him from 22 cents on COMC, and then I sold it for $5.88 later. Yeah. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? He's a madman. But
so his account is DJ Nicholson. Check him out. We'll give him a shout out here because he is, I can say, the COMC king. And in our group 2 years ago, he would post pictures and he'd say, I'm buying these, 50 of these, but they're 15 cents each or $1 each. And then we'd be like,
Cage, he was on Nadal and Federer. He was buying Nadal and Federer on COMC.
Soccer ones, all COMC. Like we would all talk about, we're gonna go look for these cards, and he'd be like, okay, well I hit COMC and cleaned them out. We're like, 15 cents, and then but literally a week, 2-3 weeks later, he'd be like, hey, bought these for this, sold these for this, bought these for this, sold these for this, or a week later, be like, and you're looking at it, he's got a whole bunch buy for $3, and then now they're like $28. Like, oh my god, he's doing great stuff. So DJ Nicholson, the king of COMC, is what we call him. I reach out to him, and I'm just going to read it to you. You ready? One thing I've always wondered about is their condition notes and or lack thereof, especially on cards where there is no condition listed. Do you have any plans to more accurately note it on a listing, sort of how StarStock does A and B?
Yeah.
It's
that's a great. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's a great question. We have
on that. I guess it's different what you're going to receive from them.
So we have seen. So we've seen. Generally, there's been a change over the years how we do condition notes. It is time consuming to describe the nuances of condition. So we've at some points been more verbose than others. Originally, when we added condition notes, the rule was if you can see the flaw in the image, we weren't going to bother documenting it because you can see it. And our goal was to document things that may not show up in a scan. And so we'd focus on that. Later, we started getting more valuable cards, and maybe we got a return, and we decided, gosh, if we had been more explicit about something, we could avoid getting that return. So then we started tightening up some of our condition notes. I think later we added the ability to bucketize things into like grade ranges, or we added our condition review feature where you could get a near mint, EX, a more detailed condition. And then we decided, well, gosh, if we've already given something a detailed grade, then we probably don't need to describe the condition as verbosely. So you can find things on the site that are from all different age ranges and different phases of how we've described things. And actually, I think StarStock is onto something with the ABC. I think there's probably, they're focused on very modern cards. We get the full range of vintage and everything. And gosh, you don't really want to spend time describing a poor condition 1970 Topps card. So we got to find that right balance of how much information does people need. For modern cards, if you're trying to get a PSA 10, you really need to know all those nuances. I think there's opportunities for us to improve, but there's been an evolution over the years of how we've done condition notes. And so there's some stuff we try to clean up and try to organize, but there's definitely some opportunities where we can do things a little bit better. And hey, maybe someone like StarStock or others comes up with a more efficient model that makes it easier for people to buy and sell. We're not opposed to taking notes from others.
As Gage pulls up the next question, I should have asked this in the beginning, but for the people out there that don't know COMC, how it works, how would you describe it in just 60 seconds or less?
We are a consignment service making it safe and easy to buy and sell trading cards. Unlike other sites where you have to list them yourself and you have to ship them yourself, or as a buyer, you have to buy from thousands of individual sellers and pay shipping to all those sellers separately. With COMC, all the inventory has been consigned with us. We store it. We describe the cards. We take the images. We handle all the payment processing, the customer service, and allow our sellers to enjoy the hobby without all the hassle. So they box stuff up, either bring it to us at a show like the National or mail it to us. And then we're doing all the work to list it. And then the buyers get to take as much time as they want on COMC to put an order together, or on eBay, build a big shopping cart and have all the items shipped in one package, helping them save on shipping and not have to pay for all the other sellers. And if you have any issues, it's just one company that you have to go to. You don't have to look up who you bought the card from and then track them down or anything like that.
DJ has a suggestion / you can ask it as a question, and it's just targeted emailing. He says when big sellers, when the hires, like the sellers who are on there, are offering a percentage discount, how is it that he can know about it, or that buyers can know about it as quickly as possible? That way they know, okay, take advantage of that sale. Can you target email? Like, what is there anything you guys are maybe working on to maybe roll that out to somebody?
That is a great suggestion. One of the features that we had discussed is allowing people to subscribe to sellers. And then when a seller runs a sale, get a notification that seller is running a sale. Because a lot of people get kind of in a rhythm. They'll put new stuff on the site, and then after a few months, they'll run a sale. And people want to get there and scoop up those deals, or find out like, hey, they got a bunch of new stuff that listed. I want to jump on it right away before people pick through it. We've talked about doing the ability for you to subscribe to a seller and get notifications as they put new things up, as they run sales. And then it's an encouragement for those sellers as they build up, they see how many subscribers they have. Okay, if I run a sale, I'm going to get 1,000 people that get an email notifying them that I'm running a sale. So that's related to some other stuff that we want to do with the mobile app, which I don't want to go into too much detail because I've hinted at the mobile app now for a couple of years, and we've been so buried with all the growth that we've had to put the mobile app on the back burner. But that's probably the best way for us to give people notification, even better than an email, is to be able to have people install a mobile app and then not only subscribe to sellers, but also have like a favorites list, or have certain like cards that they're watching. And as soon as those cards come available, whether from any seller, that they get notified to be able to go pick it up. So we have stuff that we want to work on, but right now our main focus is keeping up with the demand for the service that we're currently experiencing.
Well, I got one more question, then I'll let Andrew ask whatever the hell he wants to ask, because and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, Tim. We have had a lot of guests on. We're approaching a year of this podcast, 370 something episodes. We've had, at least one guest every week. And not many of them have the hobby pedigree that you have, collecting in the 80s, in the industry since 2003, building out software, building the stuff up. And you've seen an insider view, millions of cards over the course of decades, right? 2003, 2007 when you launched it. We're here in 2022. So COMC's been out there 15 years, right? Most of the people we talk to and interact with are people who are market participants for the last couple of years. And they only know what's going on now. And again, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this, right? Obviously, you know that what we've seen in the last couple of years has been crazy, right? But if you wouldn't mind, can you put it into perspective? Because there are a lot of people, myself included sometimes, who are glass half empty. And are concerned about what's going to happen to the hobby if the current if the current status of everybody in and everybody like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. If it doesn't keep that up, and it's hard to sustain that. But you can say, hey, this is what I've learned about this hobby for the last 20 years. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on where we're headed and where we've been.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed that over the past decade, from 2010 to 2020, the market was either flat or slightly growing. And even there were some points where the market seemed to shrink. I know going to all the different conferences, especially like the early 2010s, one of the big concerns we would talk about is the lack of children at conventions, at shows. Like every year, the average age of a collector was getting a year older. And we're like, is it on its way out? Is it done? Is there going to be a resurgence? And people didn't know. We're like, what can manufacturers do to create products that are more kid friendly? Like, how do we get people back in? And one of the things that we had theorized, we saw this with other collectibles, whether it's movies that were popular, TV shows that were popular, toys, games. About 25 to 30 years later, there'd be a resurgence. And basically what's happening is people have kids and they remember what they did when they were a child. And back in the 80s and 90s, almost everybody collected trading cards. And so now 30 years later, people have kids, they start remembering, and they start bringing their kids to shows. And I remember starting to see in like 2015, 16, 17, more and more children showing up at the National. And I think it was in 2018, I really noticed, like, I could see all age ranges at the National. There wasn't like a gap of like no interest. And then in 2019, the last National, it was like really obvious. Everybody was back in. Obviously, it was really, really early still. We hadn't had the big boom, but we, COMC, had been growing about 20 to 30% year over year. We 10x from 2010 to 2020. And then we predicted, instead of just growing by maybe 30%, we were like, okay, we'll probably grow by 50% in 2020. And then like the market took off like crazy and we grew by 150%. And so there's a lot of ups and downs with the hobby, but the big thing that we've noticed, because we have traditionally not been super high end, like we try to make it so that people can buy and sell what we call it the $2 card. This is the card I collected when I was growing up. You have $20, you can go to the show and get 10 cards. So that was kind of our bread and butter. And as people have come back to the hobby, there's been a lot of media on super high-end cards, the new $5 million card, the modern $1 million card that never existed until a year ago, not even that, like last summer. So those are definitely new things, and the world is adjusting to it. People are looking for alternative investments. There's a lot of excitement, NFTs, all sorts of stuff is going on. And people are trying to figure out what to do with these things, what to do with, there's a lot of people that have wealth and they want to find some alternative investment. So some people have decided to put their money in trading cards. That affects the entire market. We've seen on COMC, those cards that people were buying for $2 are now $5, $6, $7. Like 2 years ago, the average basketball card sold for $3. Now the average basketball card sells for $10. Like the market, like people are paying more for some of the exact same cards. It's just like there's more interest. People are cooped up at home. They opened up their closet. They rediscovered their childhood hobby. They're like, a lot of people are coming back. It's something to do when you're stuck at home. But the thing is that's interesting is once people start doing this and they collected before, they catch the bug.
Yep.
They get back in. And a ton of people that are coming back to the hobby now have real jobs. Now they're doctors, lawyers, programmers, investors. They've started companies. And so, and the other thing that's interesting is it's not just a resurgence of I collected a toy and now I want that toy with my kids. When we collected cards in the 90s, we thought this was going to be our investment. Like we talked about Beckett, like we were studying Beckett because we thought the trading cards were going to be, Gary Vee talks about learning business through trading cards. Like this introduced so many of us to the concept of like supply and demand. So we came back to this hobby thinking that it had the potential to be an investable asset. And since we collected in the 80s and 90s, now the manufacturers have actually created investable assets. Back then, they just like, oh, people want to buy this card? Okay, let's make 1 million copies of it. They didn't think to make anything different or unique to chase. So now the manufacturers created all this stuff, but nobody was paying attention. Like it was nerds like me that were like still in it in the early 2000s, and like we enjoyed it, but we were afraid like no one else was coming back to this. And then over the last couple of years, social media, it became popular. People are talking about trading cards on the Breakfast Club. It's in Wall Street Journal. Like, everybody is now talking about trading cards. It's now popular. You don't have to be a nerd to collect trading cards.
Tim, you make a COMC shirt that says the nerds were right, and I'm buying it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Make one in
Gage,
double
you're
X,
so-
COMC, and I'm ready. Let's go. I'm buying
Not double X. We're getting to XL and large. Come on now, Cage. Luka Nation Fit fan would be disappointed. Tim, what you said there, Cage and I, we were just talking about this today. Like Mark Cuban, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, Dan Fleischman, all of these business moguls or businessmen that we look at, a lot of them attribute their success to starting at 8, 9, 10 years old to trading cards, learning baseball cards. Gary is another one of those business moguls. I'm curious, we're going to have to wrap here because Cage has to get the misses. And if there's one person that could pull the plug on this entire show, it's that lady. So we're not going to even tempt fate. What do you collect now, Tim?
I mainly collect basketball cards, specifically WNBA, like everything WNBA, which there's only one product, so I can try to get as much of that as possible.
You're pranking us, right? You're spoofing us right now.
No, I love WNBA.
Listen, he only collects 1993 Leaf.
It's Goran Dragic and WNBA. That's where that's what I've been focused on. There's so many other things that people can hunt for, but like my biggest purchase of all time was just a few months ago. I got a gold vinyl 101 Sue Bird from Optic, or I guess Donruss last year, their Optic version. So I have one of the few. Actually, I have two 101 Sue Birds. I got the auto from this year, the Prism Auto 101 as well. So I've got a few Sue Bird Goat 101s. There's not a whole lot to go after there. Those are some of my premium cards, but that's what I enjoy.
Tim's a busy man, and I think I have a hunch that the reason he agreed to do this episode with us is last week I talked about Lisa Leslie cards, and I said I love how the WNBA has started marketing their product. You know, a few years ago it was like we should make as much as the men, and this year the commercials were like we have MVPs, we have trash talk, we compete, we have moves, we score, our games are competitive, and they started highlighting how much their product has improved. And it has. It really has. And I love the direction of the WNBA and where they're going.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned go ahead, I apologize.
One quick thing on the WNBA and just women's basketball in general. I'm going to give you guys a tip. Follow Paige Beckers. She just got ESPN College Player of the Year. She actually went to my high school. I got to go. She and I had the same high school coach. I would play JV basketball. He became the girls' head coach. He retired after Paige
Smart man.
Went off to college. But she has a ton of viral videos that you can go check on Overtime. I know you just interviewed someone from Overtime. They have a ton of stuff with Paige Beckers. When she gets to the WNBA, I'm going to be broke. Like, I'm going to buy everything I can of Paige Beckers. There's excitement coming to the WNBA, and there's a ton of great players in the WNBA now as well.
Yeah, I watched her speech at the ESPYs. Yeah. She's popular. She understands culture. She's very marketable. Well, let's hope that let's make sure that you're not broke. Talk to me about the future of COMC. So I know you mentioned the app, but we can steer away from that. We'll wrap with this. What's the next few years for COMC look like?
So this year, our focus is scaling our capacity. We just grew from about 50,000 square feet to our new facility, which is over 200,000 square feet. We have grown our company before the pandemic around 100 employees. Right now, we're approaching 300, and very likely we're going to be around 400 by the end of this year. The goal is just to meet the demand of the market and allow people to enjoy collecting. Over the coming years, we're going to have that mobile app. We're going to have the ability to process more cards, ship more cards. As people go hunt for their favorite cards, there's always things that you get in a break or in a box that you don't really care about, but someone else does. Those cards we want to help you enjoy the hobby. We want to help other collectors find the cards that they're looking for. Like I said, I collect Goran Dragic. There's not a ton of other people collecting Goran Dragic, and I'm trying to get everything, like 101s. Like, I probably have over 100 Goran Dragic 101s. Like people find those, send them. Like put them on COMC, put them on eBay. I'll find them. So yeah,
you have a buyer. You have a buyer in Tim.
Yeah. So we want to just help people enjoy the hobby, make it easy to find the cards you want, help people create liquidity out of the cards that they don't need anymore, the extras, duplicates, all that stuff.
Cage, take us away.
The information, because I mean, listen, it's very useful, right? Because we've talked about this a bunch of times. What do people do when they break boxes? What do people do when Topps Update comes out this year and they open it up and they can't send their cards to PSA anymore? The base cards, you name it, that used to be the ones that sent in a bulk sub. So all the information about intake and all that stuff, it's all found pretty easily on your website, right?
Yep. Yeah. You can go to COMC. There's links for how to sell. And we walk you through this submission wizard that gives you all the steps that you need to know in order to make a submission with COMC. If you're at the National, come by our booth. We'll be more than happy to explain everything to you. We'll even help you learn how to package stuff. You can drop stuff off there. But we'll have a team there to help answer all your questions.
I love it. And just one, I think you covered this, but just want to make sure. Let's say I buy something on eBay through COMC. Through a COMC seller. Can I keep it at COMC?
So the only way you can do that is if it's for auction. If you see anything that's buy it now on eBay, just come over to COMC and you can buy it on COMC. If you want to bid on an auction, the auctions are on eBay, and we have COMC sellers that want to buy things that are at auction. You don't have to pay on eBay. You can actually log into your account and link your eBay account with your COMC account, and then you can pay on COMC, and we'll transfer the item straight into your COMC account, and you can then either set it at a fixed price, or you can even, at whatever time you want, put it back up at auction.
I love it. Tim, this was fun. You're not, I'm going to be honest, you're not like, the typical, like the startup guy in the hobby with all these new companies, but it was a breath of fresh air. I knew just your vibe. I mean, we connected a little bit backstage. It was fun chatting. I know Cage does as well. We wish you all the success in the world. Where can people find you? I guess is the question. I know comc.com. Is there anywhere else you want to point people to?
Definitely. I encourage people to use COMC to get as much information as possible. Occasionally people need to get a hold of me. I do have an Instagram account, but it's more like generally it's for like really important things. I don't post a whole lot on Instagram, but that's the one social media you can find me. It's just my name, Tim Getsch on Instagram.
Love it. Luka Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys go on COMC.com, create an account. I talk about this all the time. There's so many tools out there. So many of them are free. Use them, learn from them, absorb them, because you never know when you're going to be able to benefit from them. We wish you all the success, Tim. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome. And we do have a company Instagram and company Twitter and all the other social media. You can follow us there as well.
Well, what you really have is a great product. Is what I've heard. The best marketing and sales, and we can help you with either of those if you need it. Is a great product, and it sounds like from your customers, people love it. So thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.